Hello, everyone, and welcome to season 3, episode 2 of the No Frills Teacher Podcast. It is good to be back. I'm Joe Camps, and tonight's episode is titled It's Me. Hi, I'm the problem. It's me. And I can't wait to talk about it. So now that the neighborhood dogs stopped barking from that off tune, off key version of the Taylor Swift hit song from Antihero, no, tonight's episode is not about Swifties. It's not about Taylor Swift. It is actually about the system. And when I say the system, I mean the education system and how the education system hurts educators. And what I mean by hurts educators, I simply mean not providing the support where that indeed is the problem. It is not the educators. It is the fault of the system that we have. So before I go forward, I need to take a step back. And it's been 5 months since I've posted my last episode of the No Frills Teacher Podcast. And quite a bit of that was due to other ventures, other things that I've been involved in through my No Frills teaching education consultant, which are all good things. Getting to do presentations for the Florida Literacy Association's 60th annual conference that just had happened in Orlando a couple of weeks ago. Today, I was presenting my No Frills 321 reading strategy at the Sarasota Reading Council's annual mini conference, which was amazing. So I've been busy with other outside ventures, things like that, growing the brand of No Frills Teaching, and been very fortunate and blessed with those opportunities. So the podcast, which is a really a passion project of mine, which started everything with the whole No Frills teaching brand and philosophy and a business. I took a break from doing the podcasting and I just was observing what was happening in the field of education. And I noticed over these last 5 months, reading these stories and these posts from educators on social media of leaving the profession. And we know we could talk about pay, and we know that really is probably most likely the number one factor on why educators do leave the profession. But for the purpose of this episode, we're going to look beyond pay and take a close look at why educators are leaving the profession with things that are not related to pay, and some background why I wanted to talk about this particular topic for this episode is that I had found myself with an opportunity to have a position. I was offered a job with the Florida Department of Education, the Bureau of Recruitment, Development, and Retention. I did decline the position, and it was a fantastic opportunity. Would have been for me professionally, as far as getting to have a wider reach of supporting educators across the state of Florida. However, the timing wasn't right to make such a big change for a relocation to Tallahassee from where I live in Southwest Florida with a young family. And as far as my work's not done in my current school district of what my goals are to support educators in Lee County. So, with that being said, I have become very invested in educator recruitment, retention, and development, right? And especially with the development and retention piece, recruitment's fantastic. It's something that I am interested in, but really, what I want and what my goal is finding ways to develop and support educators, and most importantly, retain educators. And I'm not just talking about those new educators that 50% of them leave within the first 5 years of the job. I'm also talking about the veteran teachers who so desperately need support, and we need to look out for those teachers as well and not pull all of our resources into supporting just the teachers that are new to the profession. So, getting to learn more about ways that we could retain educators, I took it upon myself after looking over all these posts and comments and conversations that I've had with educators over these last 5 months of, well, what can we do to retain new and veteran teachers? So I put out a survey on social media, and I was surprised by the responses that I was receiving. Once again, so the survey prompt was simply, besides pay, what are three things that can be done to help retain new and veteran teachers? And I had over 300 responses from educators from all across the state of Florida, some over 100 in my own district, and over 200 in the other districts across the state of Florida. And really, what it came down to were a few things. And that's what I want to talk about and address and see, what the results of those findings were. Because we need to retain teachers, we need to support teachers. And if we do not look out for our veteran teachers as well as our new teachers, we're going to have an even bigger crisis than we currently have now because teachers are leaving in droves, and that's not good. So districts are scrambling, trying to figure out what can we do to retain teachers. And we could say, once again, it's about pay, but we know how that goes. We go to our district, we go to our union, if you have one, or teachers association, and you say, we want a raise. Okay, great. Well, now we have to go through bargaining with the district. And then the district goes, well, the state allocated X amount of dollars, and that's all we could work with within the budget for a teacher's salary. And the cycle repeats. And meanwhile, while that's happening, we still have these wonderful, fantastic educators that are leaving and really trying to look for greener pastures. And who can blame them? So, what plan can be put in place to retain and support these teachers when we have to go and look beyond pay? Well, that's the $1 million question, really, what it comes down to. And based off my survey findings, a lot of it came to resources and respect for the profession. Profession, right? Respect for the profession. So I just want to read a little bit about my survey, and really here's a recap, right? Teacher retention has become a pressing concern in education systems worldwide. The departure of experienced educators and challenges of retaining new teachers impact student learning outcomes, school stability, and community well being. While much research has focused on systematic issues such as pay and workload, less emphasis has been placed on firsthand teacher feedback about daily challenges and potential solutions. The purpose of my study was to fill that gap by analyzing survey responses from teachers, offering a unique perspective on how to retain both new and veteran educators in the profession. That was key because teachers just want to be heard, and we're often not heard. It's like the voice of the voiceless, if you will, where I believe if our leaders, right, our administrators, our supervisors, our district staff, and everyone, politicians would just listen and value what teachers actually have to say, I think that would go a long way instead of constantly being told what's best for us. And I think just teachers, a big part of this is we want to be heard. Right? We want to have a voice, especially in our careers. And the responses that I received aligned with that they just wanted to be heard and get their firsthand perspective of what's really happening in the world of education. So now I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to cover the top three results that after receiving all of these responses from these educators, I compile that information and anonymously, right, use the responses and compile that information and turn it into, a report. And the analysis of the survey responses actually revealed six primary themes. And number one was work conditions, right? And teachers consistently emphasize the importance of manageable work conditions. Respondents highlighted issues such as time to plan and fewer mandatory meetings, autonomy to execute their responsibilities without micromanagement, trust and respect for their professionalism. All right. Remember, I talked about respect. Teachers don't feel respected, teachers don't feel valued, and they feel that their voice is not heard, their opinion does not matter, and they cannot be trusted as professionals. And we could have a whole other episode. In fact, I did earlier in season one, I believe, about lesson planning and record keeping and all those things. And does a veteran teacher need to also turn in lesson plans, and how detailed do they need to be versus a new teacher? Or can an administrator just trust the professionalism and the experience and expertise of the veteran teacher? And that's a whole nother discussion. But that was a big part of that, and especially with trust. Trust that I know what I'm doing. Do not babysit me. Do not micromanage me as a professional. Trust that I know what I'm doing. Trust that I am the expert in the classroom, and you can use my best judgment on how to best support my students. Right? So that's what that really meant with those kinds of responses. Next was student behavior and discipline. The teachers expressed frustration with inconsistent discipline policies, and some of the common concerns included students returning to class with minimal consequences after severe disruptions, lack of administrative support, and managing challenging behaviors, and suggestions for clearer accountability measures for students and parents, and hold the parents responsible. And if you go on social media, there's always some sort of meme or joke about a student getting sent to the principal's office or the assistant principal's office for causing a major disruption in the classroom, and they return with a piece of candy, right, or a lollipop, or whatever it is, and that's the joke, right, of the meme. But there's truth behind that joke. There's truth behind those memes, and that's why they're humorous to teachers, although very frustrating for teachers as well, because sometimes that is the reality, that the kid gets a little visit to the front office and there's no real consequence. And that, maybe a student just needs to be spoken to and kind of reminded of what expectations are in school, like class rules and all those things. Oftentimes, so should they come back with some sort of external reward or incentive for being reprimanded for behavioral infraction? I don't think so. Once again, that's a whole nother discussion, but that does cause frustration for educators, for classroom teachers, that what message is that sending to that child, and what message is that sending to that child's peers? What disruptive behavior is rewarded? So that's a big thing with student behavior and discipline, and that's also another reason why teachers leave the profession. And we talk about, why are we unable to retain teachers? Teachers feel that no matter what they do, if they can't get support from administration regarding student behaviors, it's a losing battle all year long. And eventually you're going to get burnt out. And when you come to that point in your career, you simply just walk away. Pay and benefits came up, although the survey was about, besides pay, and it's so hard to ignore the issue of pay. But I'm going to skip over pay, but I will talk about benefits. Now, I believe that also ties into oftentimes bargaining, and depends on how it works with the district, but it's diminished insurance benefits. It impacts the families of educators. That's a big problem. And also teachers unable to afford housing within their own district. Those are things that perhaps need to be looked at and evaluated further. to be able to retain teachers and stay within the community that they live in. Resources and workload. Teachers reported needing adequate classroom resources and manageable workloads. Reducing class sizes to provide individualized attention. Ensuring schools provide all necessary instructional materials. Reducing out of pocket costs for teachers. Equitably distributing class assignments based on experience and teacher expertise. Next was parental and administrative support. Respondents highlighted the need for stronger support from both parents and administrators. Key suggestions included holding parents accountable for ensuring their children attend school and behave appropriately. Parents need to parent their children. There's just no way around that. Providing administrators with training on how to support teachers effectively. This one was interesting. And this wasn't just the response of one person. For the report to be generated with these findings, there had to be a certain number of responses that kept reappearing, and coming up throughout the survey. So this one came through loud and clear that there are teachers feel, not all, but there are many out there, that their administrator is out of touch with what it's like to be in the classroom. That once you become an administrator, you forget what it was like to be a classroom teacher. I'm not saying that's true. I'm simply saying that that is a perception that once you're removed from the classroom for so many years, you kind of forget what it's like to be in the trenches. Administrators, do they need to get trained themselves on how to support their teachers? Do they need to stay current with best practices and new, philosophies of classroom management so that they could relate and be more relatable to their teachers and to the students? Perhaps, maybe yes, maybe no. But that was something that it came up quite a few times during the survey. Lastly, ensuring veteran teachers' experience is considered during scheduling and decision making processes. Veteran teachers feel slighted, especially sometimes when they notice that the newer teachers perhaps maybe get easier schedules or workloads or diminished responsibilities versus veteran teachers that have been doing it for long enough. They know what they should be doing. And what's one more thing on their plate, right? But you're a rock star. You got this. That doesn't always work out well. So that's something that perhaps also needs to be evaluated or reevaluated. Teachers propose systematic changes to improve the profession, right? We talked about reducing the focus on standardized testing, right? That's something that might be out of our control. So if our state says this is your standardized testing, that's more with the Department of Education in your state and politicians and yada, yada, yada. However, locally, within a school, within a district, perhaps it needs to be reevaluated the amount of assessments that are given administered to students as well, because you have to factor in all these state standardized assessments, and the kids get burnt out, the teachers get burnt out. It's a lose lose situation. Revisiting inclusion policies to ensure classrooms remain conducive to learning, and streamlining certification and professional development requirements to minimize additional stress. Plus, having professional development, professional learning opportunities that are beneficial and meaningful. How many times you said as a veteran teacher in a faculty meeting or in professional learning session, and you've received that same session 10 times in your career, and you know it backwards and forwards, inside and out, and you kind of just gloss over what's being presented to you, but you have to be there, right? So, but another thing that came up from some of the veteran teachers was perhaps not everything is a one size fits all approach to how we support teachers, where we focus more with those professional trainings and the development with newer teachers or career changers, whatever it may be, and the veteran teachers, they get something that perhaps is more beneficial for them and respectful of their time as well. Also making sure that the professional learning that is being offered is purposeful and meaningful to the actual job of what they are doing. So that's something else that needs to be looked at within each district. So these were just some of the findings, right? That they also align with existing literature on teacher retention, offering those fresh insights into the lived experience of teachers. Teachers expressing an emphasis on autonomy, respect, and trust underscores the need for a cultural shift within schools, and administrators must prioritize creating environments where teachers feel supported and valued. Supported and valued. If you do not feel supported, you are not going to stay in the profession. If you do not feel valued in anything you do in your life, you're not going to see a purpose in continuing to do it. And that's what happens. Teachers do not feel valued. Right? We don't need a gold star every time we do something well. However, a simple acknowledgement of a job well done goes a long way. So clearly, this is not something that can be fixed overnight or over a month or even over a year. But these are serious conversations and important conversations that we need to have as educators with each other and with our leaders, right? State leaders, local leaders, district leaders, school leaders. Because if we do not find ways to support and retain educators, then it's just this never ending cycle of losing teachers, getting teachers, hiring people that perhaps are not as qualified as we would like them to be just to fill spots in a school. So this is part of a much larger conversation. But that's all I have for you this evening. And I once again, I felt that it was very important to address the problem. And teachers that are listening to this episode, you are not the problem, even if public perception is that we are at times. That is not the case. We are being failed. We are not being supported, and things need to change. And for those out there that do support educators, and those out there, if you're an administrator and you are supporting your teachers, thank you. If you are a superintendent and you are supporting your district and your teachers, thank you. There are many of you out there that are trying your absolute best to support the profession and support teachers and try and give them what they need with what's available. For those out there who overlook their teachers, their educators, right? We are professionals. We should be treated as such. We should be valued. We should be respected. And most importantly, we should be heard. I'm Joe Camps, and this is the No Frills Teacher Podcast. Have a good night.